8,400 subscribers to 73,000 subscribers in like 2 weeks. If it sounds unbelievable, if you thought this was a clickbait title for the video, for the podcast, you were wrong. And we have the channel, we have the guy here right now. He's JT of Second Thought, and he jumped up from 8,400 to 73,000 subscribers in just a matter of days. So stay here with us at YouTubers United. Tristan,
Yes.
we have here our first guest ever, JT of Second Thought, and we're going to talk to him about his explosive growth.
Well, yes, it was quite a surprise. I saw both sides of this, so it was really exciting. Welcome to the show, JT.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So I guess we should get started with a little bit of prologue and backstory. So what is Second Thought? What were you doing? What's your plan for it?
So I started it as a really just a fun little channel to talk about logical fallacies and thought experiments like that. But it kind of snowballed. I just got interested in other things. I tried a couple different styles, and I found one that I really liked.
And you've made a number of videos at this point, right?
Right.
This explosion came after quite a while. How long have you been at it?
It's been about 10 months. It'll be a year at the end of March.
So for anyone listening who's not familiar with Second Thought, he's an animated education channel. And I mean, you've covered everything from science to politics. It looks like you got a diverse group of content, and it's all animated. It looks like you're using After Effects or something close to that.
Yeah.
And something crazy happened just on the, looks like about January 24th, 25th. You were getting, at the beginning of the month, maybe like 10 to 20 subscribers a day, maybe 100 here or there. And then boom, there were a few days towards the end of January where you were getting over 18,000 subs a day. What happened? Like what made the change on your channel?
Yeah, that came out of nowhere, really. Let's see, that was the 27th was that first really, really big day when I noticed something was very wrong. I got about a little over 8,000 subs that day, I believe. That was that Friday. What happened was I had uploaded my NASA video, which did really well. I mean, people seemed to enjoy it. It ended up getting, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say for those listening who haven't seen it, which if you haven't, it'll be in the show notes, go check it out. But it's a video asking, what could we do with NASA's budget? What could NASA do with the military's budget? Sorry. If we took the military, which I think you clearly said in the video is like $600 billion a year.
Yeah.
We put that all into the space program, what would happen? And that video's done really well for you. Sorry, go ahead.
Right, yeah. It was just intended as like a fun speculative video, and it kind of gathered a lot of attention. I think before my channel really started picking up speed, it had hit around 200,000 or so views.
So did you have any strategy behind like the decision to make this video, or was it really just like, I feel like making this, so I'll do it?
Yeah, it was interesting to me, but I had also spoken to Sam from Wendover Productions. Great guy, and
Yeah.
this was back when I had probably about 2,000 subs. But the advice he gave me was, your stuff's good, it's interesting, it's well done. You just don't choose very fun topics, and he was completely right. I mean, I was picking topics that were interesting to me, but not necessarily fun to watch.
It's interesting you mentioned Wendover because I had a chat with him back when I was below 1,000 subs. He had just hit 10,000, and we chatted on Reddit a little bit, and he had said that the key for him was thinking about groups of people and thinking about what kind of content does this specific group want to see, and using series. Those were the two big things that he mentioned. So I think he had a video where he said he was targeting women who like to go shopping, like moms who go shopping in the supermarket. I think that was his example. And then his series that he had started was a Wikipedia series about the random and crazy Wikipedia pages that he was able to find. It's interesting that you bring him up. Is he one of your, I guess, is he one of your models or influences then, for sure?
Oh yeah, definitely. His channel's awesome. I really admire his work, among others. I mean, Real Life Lore is another big one.
Yeah, another good guy. And not only are they good channels, but they also are pretty prolific, I would say, in terms of uploading on a consistent basis, wild amounts of content.
Oh yeah.
So to go back to your success, because you're the star this week, have you seen a big spillover into your other content? Because admittedly, I came upon your channel in this moment of growth for you. So I did not see it pre-explosion. Have any of other videos taken off because of this, or are these levels where they were before?
No, a bunch of them actually have gotten a whole bunch of views. My earlier videos, surprisingly, or I guess not surprisingly, depending on how you look at it, my more controversial videos have gotten a lot more views. So why Noah's Ark would have failed, the dark truth about Mother Teresa, all that kind of stuff. Those have all gotten are pushing 100,000+ views.
Yeah.
And just from the trickle down. So it's definitely interesting to see what people will click on.
So since you've been
Right.
looking at your own data, you have the analytics we don't have. You seen? Can you kind of like paint a picture of like where this all came from?
Yeah, it started like we were talking about with the NASA video. And I believe what happened was I had been posting it around Reddit and smaller subreddits. I did r/mealtime videos, stuff like that, the little ones. But then for some reason I forgot to post it to r/videos, the big one. But somebody, some kind soul, liked my video and cross-posted it there to r/videos, and that's where it got 1,500, 2,000 upvotes, something like that. And they started to really pour in at that point.
Oh, so I've heard this story before. I've had this experience, and I mean, considering the content, you kind of just skirted by the no politics rule then.
Just barely.
I guess because NASA's in the title, people don't think about it. That's good, man. What I noticed, and when I had a Reddit post from our videos, was that the incoming traffic was nice, but it did two things. It killed my audience retention for that period of time, and the comment section got dramatically worse for about 24 hours. Did you experience anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Reddit is awesome. It's a great platform, but some of those people exist just to prove you wrong.
God, yeah.
And that hasn't completely gone away even to this point. I mean, I'll still have people who'll comment on my videos. It's usually the same people saying that I'm a communist or what have you, because I say anything critical of the military or of Mother Teresa, anything like that. So, I mean, you're always going to have detractors, but a lot of those do come from Reddit.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, no doubt. So, comrade, So you had a boost from Reddit. Did that then lead into? In my experience, the Reddit boost then led into homepage and browse features traffic. Is that how it went for you as well?
Definitely, right. At this point, I've got it written down here. I've got, browse features are accounting for about 65% of my viewership, and then suggested videos are 24%, and then externals down quite a bit. At this point, I believe that's skewed because I was picked up by that new YouTube algorithm, is what I'm assuming, that really skyrocketed me.
Yeah, for sure. Another question, I think we kind of skipped over what Tristan was asking earlier. So we're talking about Windover and the idea for the video. How did you determine that? I mean, it is an interesting topic, but did it come out of the blue? I have like an idea list that I just kind of roll with over time. Did this come to you out of the blue, or was it an idea that you developed through some other process?
I have a working list as well, and if I remember correctly, I was just browsing the internet one day, and I saw that question, or one very similar to it, is what if NASA had a much larger budget? And that was fascinating to me because I really like space. It's an incredibly interesting topic, and I knew that other people felt the same way. So I thought, well, what the heck, why not? We'll give it a shot. And it worked out.
So could we talk about what your turnaround on a video is? Like, what is the whole process of idea to creation?
Yeah. Whole process, probably looking at 20 to 25 hours. Which is not a huge amount of time. It's not unreasonable. And typically I'll do that all over the course of about 3 days. I'll have my idea, or I'll be mulling an idea over, and then once I choose it, I'll do some research, write the script over usually a Tuesday, record on Wednesday, cut up the audio. I'll start drawing all my stuff because I have to draw all my little characters and things like that. And then on Wednesday, if I have time, I'll start editing and animating. And then the brunt of the work, the animation work, is on Thursday night. I'll work typically until midnight, 1 in the morning, and upload then.
I don't know if I mentioned this, but I like your content. My wife and I started going through it as soon as we got to the NASA one. And I guess what was interesting to me was to see the diversity in your content. And so my next question then is, I noticed your most recent upload was about dreams. And before that, it had been about cloning a woolly mammoth. But like you said, going back into your post history, I also saw something about, we watched one about the loudest sound ever. So I guess my question is, are you planning on rolling with this content that's gotten you so big? Are you going to maybe make a series out of the what if we took this money and used it for this? Or are you going to just let that go and let the creative juices just take you to the next place?
Well, I've had a lot of requests to do more budget videos, and so that's definitely something on my radar, something I'll consider. But for the time being, I don't have any specifics in that regard. I do, however, want to start doing more hypothetical videos, more what ifs, because people really like to kind of go with those ideas and run with them in the comments and just create a whole little community there.
So if you were to take the NASA video as a very successful case study, what kind of lesson do you think that you took away from the whole experience?
I think people like to be alarmist and idealist and all of those other ist words rather than just be taught something. Teaching people is great, but if you can teach them something and suggest something to them, that's going to give you a wider audience.
Ooh.
Dang,
I like
because
that.
I got the exact opposite message when I made stuff, but that's interesting.
It's a mystery.
Yeah, I think it's there's a certain political climate on Reddit, and if they like you, then they like you, and if they don't, then they really don't.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if you look at some of the comments, especially on my greatest threat to humanity, my climate change video, it's frankly disturbing, the type of comments you get on some of those videos. I mean, that was hardly political, except for the fact that, I mean, it's a divisive issue, but.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it. You explained that people were conflating climate and weather, and for that reason, you got attacked. It reminds me a little bit, not the same video at all, but I still get daily comments on my video that I did about Islam, which if you've seen my Islam video, it's literally just a listing of facts. There's like, I think I maybe said my opinion once or twice in the video, and the comment section is just a cemetery. It's just a graveyard. I don't even go there anymore. And it's disturbing to see on both ends of the spectrum what people are capable of having as an opinion. It's incredible.
Yeah.
On that note, you said your comments have been a mixed bag at times, especially on the day when Reddit was involved. But how was your community prior to the big explosion? Were you engaged? Were your 8,400 viewers engaged? And have you seen in your subsequent uploads, is that audience still there, and has it grown, or your community rather?
Yeah, absolutely. So in my earlier videos, I started to notice the same 10 or so people commenting on every video, always being the first ones to watch, no matter what time I uploaded. And that really hasn't changed all that much. I still see those same 10 or 15 people always commenting, always appreciating the work that I do. But there are more of them now as well, which is really cool to see. And unfortunately, I can't respond to everyone over the course of weeks and months, however long these go, but I do my best to respond to everybody on day one.
That's a good philosophy to have. Are you a fan of other like YouTube guru people like the Schmoyers and the Daryl Eves? Those are and Roberto, the people that tell us all the time, respond to comments as much as you possibly can, or is this kind of just your personal philosophy, like this is what I want to do for my community?
Yeah, it's just something that I like to do. I think that if you tend your garden, it'll grow rather than just leaving it to do its own thing. I tend not to respond to the overly negative or the bashing comments unless one really merits my attention. But yeah, if you talk to your people, they'll appreciate you.
Go ahead, Tristan.
Oh, just how have you set up any sort of comment moderation policy or deputize some comment moderators to help out?
No, not at all. It's still the Wild West. And part of me thinks that I should, but on the other hand, you know what? They're people's opinions. If you're going to have disagreements, it's not the end of the world.
I would agree with that. I got one more or a couple more substantive questions. Before I get to them, I just thought I'd ask you one of the mindsets that I notice about myself, or one thing I noticed about my feelings when a video of mine is getting bigger, is that I'm never satisfied with that analytics chart. So when it doubles, I get happy for about a split second, and then I think about, well, what if it doubled again? You know, and I can imagine that while you were getting thousands upon thousands of subscribers a day, that you know, at some point were you ever truly satisfied with the growth, or did you have that dissatisfied feeling, like I did at times, even when I was doing fantastically well?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Before that explosion, I was just clawing to get my first 10,000 subscribers. I mean, I was
Yeah.
working so hard for those. Like you said, 20 a day, 30 a day. And then when that really took off, I was ecstatic for maybe 15 minutes. I'm like, oh, sweet, I'm at 13,000, 14,000. And then I'm like, okay, well, why not 20,000? Why aren't there 25,000 people here? I mean, I don't think that ever truly goes away. You're always going to want more. The grass is always greener. But I tried my best to keep it all in perspective. Like, hey, I've quadrupled, I've quintupled. This is going well.
And that should be a lesson to anyone listening who's under 100 subs, because I've talked about it on this podcast before. I spent a long time under 100. I remember crawling, really grabbing for just every sub I could to get to 100. And you know what? It eventually does get better. These things come in waves. They come in trickles later on, and you're never going to be satisfied. So this always gets thrown out. It's a cliche, but you should be focusing on your content and making it better, and not worrying so much about the numbers, because as Second Thought here, as an extreme example, is proving, this can all turn around in literally a number of days. It's amazing.
You just need that one lucky break.
It's true. It's absolutely true. And the way I tend to think of it is it's kind of a reflection of capitalism, honestly. It's when you have those views and those subscribers, you're going to get more of those. It's a snowball. I mean, it starts like a tiny little snowball, and as you gain views and subscribers, it just picks up. It'll just keep going.
So let's talk a little bit about your future plans. I know that you said that you want to start uploading more content, or at least producing more content. I noticed also that you went ahead and launched a Patreon. Can you tell us about, was that already in the works, or did that come about because of the growth?
I had laid the groundwork for that about a week before, I believe. I had been speaking with Joe from Real Life Lore. He's a buddy of mine. He actually lives just down the road. And he recommended that I don't put up a Patreon account until around 100,000 subs. And that was my plan. But I started getting some emails like, hey, where can I donate to help fund new videos? I'm like, okay, wow. So there is an interest here in helping fund these videos. So I responded to those people. I'm like, all right, I'll put up a Patreon. I'll send you the link as soon as it's ready. So I did, and it's worked out.
What kind of rewards are you offering to people who support you on Patreon?
It's fairly standard. Like I'll let them vote on upcoming topics. Typically, I'll give them a selection of 3 or 4 to choose from. At a higher level, you'll get all my research, my scripts, and then of course you'll have your name at the end of the video, or you get to see it sooner, things like that.
And are you satisfied then? I guess you said that, I forget the guy's name, but the Real Life Lore guy. Sorry if you're listening. I like your videos. Joe, okay. You said that he kind of had said wait a little bit, and admittedly, Tristan and I know a lot of people listening are at the phase where we've either launched a Patreon or are considering that in the future. Would you advise people under 100K to go ahead and make that jump? And like, was Joe's advice correct, or do you think that launching a little early is also a good possibility to get yourself going?
It's tough to say. I think it's probably better to wait until at least around 50,000, 60,000, something like that, simply because you're going to get a lot of people upset with you. A lot of people see that as selling out or as begging for money, which is obviously not what you're doing. You want to do this full time. You want to be able to support yourself while you do this channel and provide better content. But that's not how a lot of people see it. So
People just have no idea what like you said about 25 hours, like 25 to 50 hours, I think is normal for researching these animated videos. People have no idea how much time that takes. When you're trying to balance a community and a normal job, just asking for a little tip, basically what amounts to a tip from most people, $1 or $2 or $3 is, it's just so reasonable. It's amazing to think of the negativity that comes creators' way when they launch a Patreon.
Right. Yeah. Anytime money gets involved, things go south.
So what are some next steps that you have planned for Second Thought to kind of build that snowball?
Well, the biggest thing is devoting more time to it. I up until that day that it really exploded, I was working at a software development company as inside sales. So I was making cold calls all day, and I absolutely hated it. So
Oh God.
yeah, yeah. So
I've done cold calling for political candidates. That's awful.
it's the worst, absolutely the worst. People will hate you. But my biggest advice to anyone out there who's doing that kind of job, who is like us, more creative than salesmen, don't fight your nature. You can try. I've tried for years, but I mean, there's only so much you can do. I always come back to doing something creative. But I made the probably rash decision of quitting my job. I was like, you know what? This is bad for me, emotionally speaking, and it's taking up too much of my time. So I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna give it a month or two, see what happens, and then I'll reevaluate. But
wow.
yeah.
Would you? I didn't even. Would you be? Maybe in the future we should check back in and see how it's gone. Of course. I guess if it's a disaster, then you might not want to come talk about it. But I really that's a brave move, and I hope it works out for you. That's incredible.
It's really burning the ships there.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that you said you were in doing cold call sales. I'm pretty sure you can go back to that if you have to.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to, but
Yeah.
I feel you, man. I've done cold calls for political candidates. That's soul sucking stuff. Have you talked with friends and family about this jump then to go full time?
Yeah, kind of. I've discussed it more with people on YouTube and with my wife, obviously. She's a huge support. But my parents didn't know. They live just down the road as well, and they didn't know I even did YouTube until yesterday. So, yeah. I tend to keep it kind of close to the chest. Yeah, exactly.
That's a good surprise, though. You're a creative type.
Yeah.
What do we have any other questions, Tristan? Anything interesting to ask about?
I think we've self-examined. I think that there's a lot of really cool stuff that's going to happen to your channel. I think that whether or not, this burning the ships and, really going for it yourself takes off, I would like to come back and talk in a few months just to see how the fallout of this event has really happened. Because, this still only happened like about a week ago. Mm-hmm. And so it'd be really good to see what the longer term effects are like.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I just thought of a random question that I hadn't asked prior, but your upload schedule, when your NASA video blew up, what had you been posting more consistently? Did you have a schedule? Do you have a schedule?
Yes and yes. Back when I started my channel, I really didn't have a schedule. I was just kind of uploading whenever I got the videos done, which is not the right approach for sure. More recently, I guess in the past, since my, I believe my Mother Teresa video was the first one where I chose my schedule, I chose when I would upload, and I stuck to that. So the past couple months, I've been uploading every Friday at like midnight.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely the way to go. That consistency.
Friday at midnight. Is that like a TubeBuddy recommendation or?
Yeah, earlier in my YouTube career, if you want to call it that, I was looking around at what the best time to upload was, and there's a lot of back and forth about it. Some people say it's Friday, some people say it's Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah.
But it worked best for me to do Friday because I knew I'd have the next couple days off to kind of recuperate from that long night.
Yeah, no joke.
Yeah, TubeBuddy always tells me to publish on Tuesdays at 9 p.m., which is a strange time, and it's also like at the end of a very long and like it's my like 12-hour day of work. And so the
Yeah.
idea of coming home at 9 p.m., which is around the time I get home, and publishing a video just sounds exhausting. But
No joke. I had a couple successful videos that I uploaded at random times, including Friday evenings, but in the end I think there is a little bit of wisdom to posting longer content on the weekend when people actually have the time to see it. But the counter argument to that, of course, is that more people are clicking when they're at work. So I kind of compromised and started uploading around midday Sunday so I could catch both ends of that. People at work and people who are, people that are relaxing the day before, on Sunday. But I don't think, I think the YouTube gurus are probably correct when they say it. In the end, it probably doesn't matter that much. Just getting a piece of content up and having an engaged audience is enough to make sure that anything that's worth being seen will be eventually seen.
plus, I'm kind of a child, and when I have a video finished, I just feel like I'm a jerk holding it out from all of my wonderful subscribers who want to see it, just because I want it to come out at like a strategically optimal time.
Right.
JT, if our audience who's listening would like to check you out on YouTube, which they should, how can they find you, and what's your best pitch for why they should come take a look at your channel?
Well, it's just second thought. Just Google or not, search in YouTube or Google second thought. It should be the first result. I mean, there's a bunch of other Vivo
is.
nonsense there. But if you like learning new things but don't have a whole lot of time to do it, or just want to kind of gauge your interest in a certain topic, I would come check out my videos because I don't go too overboard. I'll give you some of the interesting facts and then let you decide for yourself if you want to pursue it further. And I always provide my links and resources for you guys. So definitely come check it out if you're interested.
He provides links and resources, guys. He shows his sources. That's a rarity on YouTube. Go check him out. Go subscribe. And JT, would you like to stick around for some more conversation, or do you have to get going?
Yeah, I'll stick around. I got some time.
Awesome. So what we wanted to talk about next was we wanted to answer a fan question.
Our cool uncle.
And for our cool uncle has written us, if you have a question, you can write to us at ytunitedpodcast@gmail.com. That's been getting a little busier in the last week, so I really appreciate everybody who's written in, youtubersunited.com, or you can find us at ytunitedpodcast. And Soliloquy from the channel Soliloquy wrote us. He said, "Hello, Will and Tristan. I'm really enjoying listening to the podcast and your discussion about Facebook and Twitter. Got me thinking. I recently had my first run-in with a freebooter. A Twitter account had ripped off my video and posted it natively on Twitter without even notifying me. I asked them to take down the tweets, mostly because I couldn't figure out how to file a copyright claim, and they complied. But my question is, what's your game plan for dealing with an incident of freebooting? Also, do you actively look for perpetrators? And if so, how do you look? Your friend and colleague, Soliloquy."
So if I could...
Tristan, has anyone ever freebooted?
No one's ever freebooted a Step Back video. You have to be relevant to do that. But I do have a lot of thoughts about this because I follow all of the CGP Grey podcasts, and he talks a little bit about this, but also, there's some things about copyright in the internet and a whole bunch of stuff to lay out. So the first thing that I would say is a lot of people, like, tracing down freebooting and filing all the claims seems to be one of those things that does not have, you have to do it a little bit in order to like establish that you're not just a pushover. But CGP Grey anyway lets people come to him with cases of freebooting, and then he files the claim. I would think that maybe something passive like that would be a good option. If you see a case, report it, but don't I wouldn't go hunting for freebooters. The other thing too is that you really do have to kind of sit down and accept that this is the internet, and you don't want to end up like, the MPAA or something like that, where, you're hunting down grandmas who are stealing MP3s off the internet or something. So honestly, in a lot of cases, this is part of the ugly, leaky side of the internet that we all know exists. We might delve into one time or another, but for the most part, it's a bit of lost revenue. But I think that your energy put into hunting people down is best put into making more content. And I think that in the end, no one's going to make more popularity out of their content than you yourself.
So I've thought a little bit about this. Of course, the first option for content ID on YouTube is that you join a network, but we all, I think, know that networks are most of the time just a scam. The other option, of course, is to look on TubeBuddy to see if somebody has just shared the exact URL, but that's not freebooting, right? That's sharing. So that doesn't actually work in this case. But I went on to Twitter because I've been freebooted just once that I am aware of, and the person was dumb enough to use the exact title. So when I was looking for this particular video about UK elections to see where I ranked, I found the copycat and was able to file a complaint. But as far as finding other content around the web, except for Googling yourself and your content, I don't know exactly how to go about doing that. However, to address the issue of Twitter, I actually went and found the copyright policy for Twitter, and I posted it in the show notes, or I will post it in the show notes. What I thought was interesting about the way they deal with copyright claims is that they don't, after you file it, which looks like, a normal bureaucratic process, there is no time frame mentioned about how long it takes for them to get to your claim and address any sort of counterclaims. That I found to be quite disturbing, because I think even Facebook, which is more notorious for this, has a time frame, a few business days or something, which I thought that was pretty extreme. JT, has anyone ever, you said off the air that no one's ever freebooted from you before, right?
Right, at least not to my knowledge. And I do hope that's the case, obviously, but it's the type of thing. Honestly, sometimes it's hard enough to find videos that I've uploaded myself. So I would have no hope of finding anything that someone else has uploaded of mine. But I mean, even if they did, it, like you guys said, it wouldn't be. They'd be making pennies or a couple bucks off it, even if they monetized it. So it's real no skin off my back. I guess imitation's the sincerest form of flattery. But if someone were to deliver their head to me on a silver platter, I probably wouldn't turn it down.
And on that
Makes sense.
note, Tristan, also you mentioned telling people. Tristan, I think you mentioned or having your fans come and report it to you, right? And that's also something that I've seen another big education channel, Kurzgesagt, do. In fact, they made a video about freebooting. And I think part of the reason they made that was because Kurzgesagt, as a brand, almost comes off like, I think your first time you see a Kurzgesagt video, you kind of imagine it to be just a generic educational video, because they've got that like announcer voice. It's very, very professional. And so I think that they might have had a huge problem with this, and this is why they ended up making that video. But in doing so, they established the precedent that people should come to them and tell them that this is happening. And I don't know what's on your plate, Soliloquy, for the next year of content, but maybe if it becomes a big problem for you, consider finding another aspect of freebooting to talk about and uploading some sort of video. Because, and this is why I brought Tristan in here for this conversation, or I wanted to bring you back in, is because you mentioned a while ago about, was it Jake from Vsauce 3 who had an issue where he was posting something that was very much like one of CGP Grey's videos. And he actually talked to his audience before posting to like establish the precedent that they should, defend him if anybody accuses him of just being a copycat. Do you remember that conversation?
Yeah, so the story was that Jake Roper on Vsauce 3 made a video about the transporter dilemma, which is like, this kind of metaphysical discussion about teleporters and a bunch of interesting thought experiments anyway. The problem, though, is that CGP Grey made a video about that exact same topic and released it maybe a few days before Jake was planning on doing it. And Jake got really, really depressed and was planning on not putting up the video. And keep in mind, this is also around the time that Jake was dealing with like cancer treatments and stuff like that, so he was in a really low place emotionally. CGP Grey himself, though, made an entire, I think it was like a CGP Grey 2 channel video about like, sometimes the same content comes out in multiple places and we should support creators and, you should do this. Like, he encouraged Jake on Twitter, and and Jake eventually released the video, and it was on a similar topic, but I think that whole discussion led to, I don't know, I think they both videos did fairly well, so I'm not too.
So I guess the moral of the story is, if you establish, like if you communicate with your audience and you communicate with your community, good things can happen. And I think the person asking this question, we know, cause at least I know because I've seen it, and I think you've seen it as well, Tristan, when you collaborated with Soliloquy, is that in his comment section are adoring fans who I'm sure would support Soliloquy if he ever was actually dealing with this in a large scale way where he needed the help. And I think because of that, he's in a good position to get help if he ever really does need it.
Yeah, and we're all in education, so it's not like the subjects that we make our videos about are unique and special. I mean, there's going to be, on a long enough time scale, another video on the same topic that you did. You just have to do it in a unique enough way. So I'm not thinking that this is about imitation. This is about like legitimate freebooting when someone is downloading your
Right.
video and reposting it somewhere, usually on Facebook or Twitter or on like a news site, and sort of not accrediting you and trying to make money on your content. And that is really I'm not sure if anyone's been able to quantify how much money people lose on these things, but
I think Kritzkasak did, but it was it was just astronomical. But yeah, you're totally right. I guess what I'm thinking of is it's not that like you harness your community to stop freebooting, but rather you harness them to tell you if they see something, And the other thing that I think Soliloquy might be underestimating, at least from the wording of his email, is that he has a brand. Someone can steal a Soliloquy video, but in the end, there's still that branded introduction with his Twitter handle in the introduction, if I'm not mistaken, and with his name at the so then in the introduction and towards the end. So someone would really have to be, they'd have to freeboot and they would have to edit out logos and things in order to do that without somebody knowing that it was from him. So if somebody saw that video stolen from Soliloquy on Twitter or on Facebook, they could still find him. I don't know how many people would actually do it, but that's another advantage he has going for him is he's branded himself really well.
yeah, and part of just being a polite video consumer on the internet is if you see something that you know is not from that channel, try to find the original owner and draw their attention to a case that they've been freebooted. I think in the end, if we just kind of have that type of mentality, we'll be able to catch at least the most prominent cases.
If you're listening to this right now and you know another system, so maybe some sort of algorithm or service or some sort of content ID system that can identify freebooting, I Googled it before we came on air and couldn't find anything. But if you know of something, email us at ytunitedpodcast@gmail.com. Anything else you wanted to talk about this on this subject? Thanks for the question, Jonathan.
Nope.
Okay. Good. Cool. So the only other thing then to talk about is that Tristan, you uploaded a collaboration this week. How did it go?
It went all right. The video seems to be performing strong. I'm still kind of riding the wave of the random algorithm love that happened to one of my older videos. So
yeah?
the views have been really high and really consistent, going from maybe about 2,800 views every 48 hours to now about 4,000. So
Ooh.
the average viewer rate has picked up. Subscriber count has been, present company excluded, pretty optimistic. Railroading towards 16,000 at a decent pace. And
Choo choo. Yeah, it's good,
Probably
man.
a few more
I'm looking at you
weeks.
now. 15,700. Not bad.
And so the video itself has been performing almost perfectly to like my standard expectations. About 2,000 views in the first 48 hours and kind of a slower trickle after that, but not so bad. So it's turning out to be a perfectly average video release.
And if, for anybody who's listening who didn't... Oh, go ahead, JT. Sorry.
Oh, that's still me. The thing is...
Oh, so my bad.
The thing is, though, is that where the cool stuff came out of this video is with the Cynical Historian, with Cypher.
Yeah.
And on the day that the video came out, I think he managed to pick up about 100 subscribers from me pointing him out. So that made me pretty happy.
All right, you have influence. You have influence. I noticed that your thumbnail. So not to focus on thumbnails, but we did talk about it last week. I noticed that your character, your beheaded. I guess that's Louis the 16th. There.
Yep.
Is is much larger than normal. And does that have anything to do with the things you've been learning and the conversations that we've been having on the podcast?
Oh yeah, it has literally everything to do with the conversation we had last week.
Yeah. And I know that you're going to be doing, this series is going to continue with Cypher. What sort of things should we be expecting? Are you going to, the Step Back 2.0 that you've been talking about, we saw some of that in the video. We saw some new characters, lots of new original artwork, and of course your new kind of background. What other things should we be watching for in the next weeks as your collaboration rolls on?
So this is my first video I made with my new microphone. So this is my like Blue Yeti. The audio quality should be up a little bit. As far as, like, it's hard for a lot of the Step Back 2.0 stuff to work out the way I wanted it to when I'm doing collaborations. Because, as you know, collaborations can sometimes be a little bit of a chaotic endeavor. And so these videos actually are like the result of, scripts I wrote back in the Step Back 1.0 days. So these are actually kind of old. I think I wrote all these scripts like over the course of like last fall.
Whoa.
So like all of the changes I have for increasing and making my scripts better should show up at least to some degree in my next video that is not part of this series, which is currently still in the script phase. And there's a video after that where I have a lot more research, like